Good day, everyone, especially to our fellow teachers that are present here. We appreciate the time you are lending us. So welcome to our webinar. Before we begin with our lovely program, let us first conduct a technical check. If my audio is audible, please type Crystal in the chat box. And if you can now see the screen that we are sharing, please give me a like reaction. All right. I've seen your responses and everything appears to be in order. Thank you for taking part in our technical review. I'm giving the floor now to my lovely friend, Teacher Jules. Hi, Teacher Jules.
Hello, and thank you, Teacher Aces. And yes, I'm your fellow teacher, Jules, here. So it is with great pride and honor to welcome you to our webinar entitled The Strengths and Weaknesses of the Filipino Character, a Socio-Cultural Issue. So wow, no? Our topic for today is surely interesting since it talks about us Filipinos. And I am certain that our discussion is relatable and full of learning. So please stay with us all throughout so that you won't miss out any essential learnings from our speakers. So once again, I'm Julia Erica C. Swafield. And
I am Carl Aces R. and Daya, and we are your Masters of Ceremony.
Our webinar would like to remind everyone to follow our netiquette guidelines. Please do not use your microphone during the presentation of the speakers to avoid any disruption. And rest assured that you will be given the opportunity to ask them questions once they are done. And also, we highly encourage everyone to open their cameras if possible. Finally, please be advised that you are required to answer an assessment after this webinar through Google Forms to test what you have learned from our speakers. Okay, Teacher Aces?
So thank you so much, Teacher Jules. And now, to officially start our program, we are requesting everyone to please bow our heads and feel the presence of our Lord for the doxology, to be followed by the Philippine National Anthem.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above the heavenly host. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiging sa silangalan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang inilang, tuyat ka ng mag-ibig, sa manlulubig, kita pasisigil, sa nakakatutok sa simulan, sa langit o araw, ay tinatanggalagaw, sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isakang agawat mo'y ay nanatiling, ang itugin na araw na kailan, ang ay natiling. Kung mga araw ng wala at pagsinta, buhay namin sa piling ko.
So good afternoon once again, dearest teachers, and welcome to our webinar, The Strengths and Weaknesses of the Filipino Character, a Socio-Cultural Issue. So Teacher Aces, could you give us some hints regarding the topic of today's webinar?
Of course, Teacher Jules. Our two speakers will discuss the strengths and weaknesses of the Filipino people. Their presentation will serve as our guide as future educators to know what are the strengths we will carry in our classrooms and what are the weaknesses that we need to improve.
Right, indeed. So learning our character strengths and the weaknesses is essential for our growth as Filipinos. So thank you for the insight, Teacher Aces. You know what? I'm really excited to listen to our speakers, and I'm pretty sure that the audience is excited as well. So I won't take much time. Let us now meet our first speaker, Teacher Aces. Please do the honors.
Thank you, Teacher Jules. Our first speaker finished her junior high school at Victorina Mapa High School with high honors and finished her senior high school at Arellana University also with high honors. She is now a second-year student at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, taking a Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education major in English. And let us now welcome Teacher Rosel Apuli.
Thank you for that, Teacher Aces and Teacher Jules. So, all right. Wait a moment. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Teacher Rosal, and I will be discussing the strengths of the Filipino character or Filipino values. So, we all know na napakaraming positibong katangian ng mga Pilipino at iilan lamang ang i-discuss ko ngayon sa mga ito. And alam ko na mabilis niyo lang itong maiintindihan talaga kasi nararanasan natin siya sa araw-araw na buhay natin bilang Filipino. Yung iba sa inyo baka makarelate pa nga sa mga iilan na ito. So, there are 7 Filipino values that I will be discussing, and the first one would be the family orientation. So, family orientation. It says here that the basic and most important unit of a Filipino's life is the family, which is true. Why? So, bakit ko nasabi na totoo yung statement na to? Kasi when you ask a Filipino kung ano yung di mo kayang mawala sa buhay mo or ano yung pinaka-importante sa'yo, mostly yung isasagot nila family, pamilya. Pamilya talaga yung number 1 na sagot nila. Unlike in Western countries, young Filipinos who turned 18 are not expected to move out of their parents' home. Ang kultura kasi ng Western countries, pag 18 na yung mga anak nila, na-expect na aalis na sa poder ng parents, na-expect na magkakaroon na ng sariling bahay and mga ari-arian. Sa Pilipinas kasi kapag 18 ka na, bata pa yan eh. Unlike sa Western countries, pag 18 na parang matanda na yung tingin nila. So dito, wala ka pa rin karapatan na umalis sa bahay ng parents mo. Dito halos wala ka pa rin karapatan mag-decide for yourself. Parents mo pa rin halos kasi nasa poder ka pa nila. Yun kasi yung kultura natin. Actually, kahit nga may mga pamilya na yung anak nila, minsan nakatira pa rin sila sa parents nila. Why? Bakit kaya? Kasi there are parents na hindi nila kayang mawalay sa anak nila and there are children naman na hindi kayang mawalay sa parents nila. But may iilan talaga na hindi kaya magpunda ng sarili nilang ari-arian, bahay. Kaya dun sila sa parents nila tumitira. And we all know naman how generous Filipino parents are na kahit minsan kakainin na lang nila, ibibigay pa nila sa mga anak nila. Ganun kasi talaga ang Filipino parents. They are always willing to help. And when a Filipino's parents are old and cannot take care of themselves, they are cared for in their children's homes and are very rarely brought by their children to homes for the aged. The practice of separating the elderly from the rest of the family, while common in Western countries, is often looked down upon in Filipino society. So Western culture kasi, kapag matanda na yung mga parents nila, talagang hindi sila yung nag-aalaga. Hindi talaga sila, pinapadala talaga sila sa home for the aged. Kaya maraming home for the aged sa ibang bansa. Actually, marami akong na-encounter na mga matatanda na tupatawag sa call center when I was still working doon. And nagbe-rent sila, nagra-rent sila na miss na daw nila yung anak nila, ilang taon na daw nilang hindi nakakita, meron pa na need daw nilang magpa-appointment pa para makita yung mga anak nila. And masakit marinig yun bilang Filipino na hindi ganun yung kultura. Sa atin kasi dito sa Pilipinas, kultura talaga natin na anak yung nag-aalaga sa parents. Hindi sa atin uso yung mga homes for the aged na ganyan. Maliban na lang kung wala na talagang pamilya. May iba pa nga na nag-aagawan yung mga anak kung sino mag-aalaga sa parents nila. Pero meron din namang pinagpapasapasahan yung parents nila and nakakalungkot yun marinig kasi hindi naman ganun talaga yung kultura natin. So, the Filipino puts a great emphasis on the value of family and being close to one's family members. So, ayun nga, like what I've said, they are a source of our personal identity, emotional and material support. Family is also our main commitment and responsibility. And lastly, having a sense of family results in a feeling of belongingness in the basic sense of security. So for the second Filipino value that I will be discussing, it is joy and humor. So this famous trait is the ability of Filipinos to find humor in everything. It sheds the light on the optimism and positivity of Filipinos in whatever situation they are in, so as to remain determined and going through struggles or challenges. It also serves as a coping technique. Dito pinakakilala yung mga Filipino. Marami na tayong napagdaanan. Aksidente, bagyo, lindol, baha, kahit ano pang sakuna. At sa mga sakuna na yon, meron at meron kami kitang Filipino na nakangiti. Kahit isa, meron at meron. Kahit na hirap sila. Kilala ang mga Filipino na palatawa at palabiro. Minsan pa nga sa sobrang palatawa at palabiro natin, tinatawanan na lang natin yung mga problema natin. Meron pa tayong kasabihan na huwag mong problemahin ang problema. Hayaan mo ang problema ang maproblema sa'yo. So, this only shows that Filipino really have a cheerful and fun-loving approach to life and its ups and downs. And laughing at ourselves and the mess we are in is an important coping mechanism. We are playful and only laugh at our problems, and we love making jokes about our future like it doesn't matter. So we love doing memes about the future. Ganun kasi talaga tayo eh. So yeah. So for the third Filipino value that I will be discussing, it is flexibility, adaptability, and creativity. So Filipinos often have an aversion to a set of standardized rules or procedures. They are known to follow a natural clock or organic sense of time, doing things in the time they feel is right. They are present-oriented, which means that one attends to a task or requirement that the time is needed and does not worry much about future engagements. This allows the Filipino to adopt and be flexible in doing the tasks, at times not bound to a particular schedule or time frame. This allows them to think on their feet and be creative in facing whatever challenge or task they have, even when it is already right in front of them. All right, so wait a moment. So, tayong mga Filipino, hindi talaga tayo palagawa ng schedule or hindi talaga uso sa atin yung planner na ganyan kasi hindi talaga nakaplano yung araw natin. Basta sasabihin natin, oh bukas may lakad ako o sa ganitong araw aalis ako o sa ganitong petsa, birthday ni ano, kailangan pupunta ako. And dahil doon, sobrang flexible yung time natin kasi hindi siya nakaschedule. Like, kung may gagawin na pupuntahan tayo ngayon, tapos biglang may kailangan puntahan mamaya, pwedeng-pwede kasi wala tayong schedule na sinusunod. Hindi tayo namulat na nakaschedule lahat ng gagawin natin. Sinusunod lang natin kung ano yung naaalala nating lakad, nang hindi nag-aalala sa mga future pang lakad kung mapupuntahan ba natin or hindi. So, dahil dito, naging kilala yung mga Filipino sa pagiging adaptable and flexible kasi wala tayong sinusunod na time frame. Kaya kahit nabigla ang schedule na dumating, kaya natin mapuntahan agad and magawa ng paraan. So for the fourth Filipino value that I will be discussing is religious adherence. So the Philippines is made up of approximately 85% Christians, 10% Muslim, with the remaining 5% belonging to other religions. So the combined percentages of Christian and Muslim faithful are indicative of the strong or at least nominal faith most Filipinos have in the existence, agency, and power of a creator died. With regard to the Catholic majority, it observes numerous church holidays, notwithstanding the fewer holidays of obligation compared to the faithful of other countries. Attendance of Mass is high not only on Sundays but also on national and regional feast days, and abstention from communion is almost unheard of. Catholicism also provides the basis for many citizens' positions on moral, ethical, and everyday issues. Extreme practices officially frowned upon by the clergy take place during Holy Week. So, ang mga Pilipino talaga, kilala yan bilang religious, maka-Diyos, ganyan. Halos siguro kalahati ng mga desisyon sa buhay ng mga Filipino nai-influensyahan ng religion niya. So, sa Pilipinas, marami tayong religion, pero yung mga halos kilala talaga ay mga Iglesia ni Cristo, born again Christian, dating daan, at ang pinakakilala talaga ay Roman Catholic. Ang maganda lang kasi sa ngayon, marunong na tayo rumispeto ng religion ng bawat isa, unlike before. Dati kasi hindi tayo ganun kamulat na meron tayong iba't ibang paniniwala pagdating sa religion. Ngayon kasi mas mulat na tayo na kung ano yung bawal sa kanila, tapos pwede sa atin, hindi natin pwedeng judge yun. Kasi religion nila yun. Hindi naman natin religion yun. And ngayon kasi parang nire-respect na natin. And hindi na natin sila judge kasi mulat na tayo sa ganun. So marami sa Filipino ang tagasunod talaga sa mga religion nila. Ang example ko na gagamitin ay sa Catholics. Kasi I'm a Catholic. So mas alam ko talaga siya. So as someone na madalas sa Quiapo, mapapatunayan ko yung statement na attendance of Mass is high not only on Sundays. Hindi lang talaga Sunday maraming tao ang nagsisimba. Hindi lang sa Quiapo, marami sa iba't ibang simbahan. Halos araw-araw puno ang Quiapo at yung ibang mga simbahan, sobrang siksikan. Lalo na ngayong nag-lift sa alert level 1 ata dahil sa COVID. Mas marami ng tao ngayon and hindi na sila ganun nagsi-social distancing. So, punong-puno po talaga sa Quiapo every day. And mas dumadami pa siya kapag may mga events like Holy Week, Christmas, or simpleng tuwing Sabado at Linggo, ganyan. At marami pa rin sa atin hanggang ngayon, ginagawa pa rin yung prosesyon sa mga barabarangay, yung mga pabasa, at marami pang iba. Tanda lamang na ang Filipino, religious talaga, sadyang nakatanam sa Filipino yung pagiging religious. Active ang mga Filipino sa mga activities sa simbahan. And also, nagiging part na siya ng country natin kasi kapag may mga events, hindi lang sa Catholic pati sa mga ibang religion, madalas walang pasok, suspended ang pasok sa school and sa work. So actually, we also have classmates here who are part of Iglesia ni Cristo, dating daan, born again Christian, and other religion. And nakikita ko sa mga posts nila sa Facebook, sobrang active din nila sa mga churches nila, which is also another proof na religious tayo at sinasabuhay at sinusunod natin yung mga paniniwala natin na nakasanayan. So for the fifth Filipino value that I will be discussing, the ability to survive. So, ability to survive. Filipinos, having been under the rule of numerous powerful countries, have developed a sense of resourcefulness or the ability to survive with whatever they have. They have the extraordinary ability to make something out of almost nothing. And this Filipino value, I'll just use my own experience and relate it to the experiences of other people. So, my parents are 16 years old when I was born. They doesn't have the means to rent a house, to buy food, to buy things for me. In short, they doesn't have anything. And asa sila sa parents nila. Mula baby ako hanggang mag-15 ako, my grandmother, siya lahat yung nagbo-work para sa amin kasi si Papa, syempre bata pa. Sa bahay lang talaga yan. And ako nag-aaral. Iniisip ko na, paano nga ako napag-aral kaya, nagbihisan, napakain ng ganong katagal, nang wala siyang trabaho. Nagtitinda lang siya araw-araw and ang tinutubo niya lang sa 50 pieces na tinapay piso. So, sa isang araw, makaka 50 pesos lang kami. So, paano namin yung pagkakasyahan? Sa pagkain, sa baon ko, and such. And nung mag-look back ako, parang, wow, kahit na sobrang hirap na ng buhay namin before, may mas hirap pa pala. May mas mahirap pa pala sa amin. Mostly, karapihan ng mas malala pa yung sinasapit, nasa Tondo. Yes, hindi po lahat ng nasa Tondo mahirap. Hindi sila lahat mahirap, correction lang. Pero halos karamihan talaga nasa laylayan. Mga kailangan talagang tulungan. So I already watched many documentaries about people in Tondo and napapatanong na lang ako sa sarili ko, like, paano nila nasa-survive yung ganong kahirap ng life. And then ko na-realize na sobrang madiskarte ng Pilipino. Nakaka-amaze yung ability nila to survive kahit na walang-wala talaga sila. Yung talaga yung pinaka-hinahangaan kong trait natin, hinahangaan ko talaga yung mga taong ganun, except sa mga mali na yung ginagawa. Pero yung taong nasa laylayan talaga and lumalaban ng patas sa life para sa barya, na pang-survive lang sa araw na yun. Hindi nila iniisip madalas yung pangbukas, yung sa ngayon lang talaga. And yung makasurvive sila sa araw-araw na buhay na ganun sa ilang taon, nakaka-amaze kasi hindi mo maiisip paano. So, ayun, grabe yung ability to survive ng mga Pilipino. Nakaka-amaze yung diskarte natin sa buhay, kung paano tayo pipilitin natin maghanap ng work para sa family and such. Ayun, sobrang nakaka-amaze lang. So, for the sixth Filipino value that I will be discussing today, it is hard work and industriousness. So, hard work and industriousness. With resourcefulness comes hard work. Filipinos are very determined and persevering in accomplishing whatever they set their minds to. Filipinos over the years have proven time and time again that they are a people with an industrious attitude. Sadly, this is seen by others as useful domestic helpers working abroad to help their families in the country. This is also present in the country's workforce, particularly the farmers. Even with little support, technological weaknesses, and the country's seasonal typhoons, the Filipino farmer still strives to earn their daily meal. Actually, hard work and industriousness are really the main reasons why Filipinos survive in their everyday lives. Example here in the Philippines, farmers don't usually get the recognition that they deserve and the help that they need, but they still keep on doing their jobs even though they're not getting what they deserve. This is a sad truth. They're the most important people in our country here in the Philippines. They're the most important, yet they are treated like they don't have worth in this country. So another example, wait a moment. So in this country, they are the most important people. So even though they are not treating, hindi sila natitreat ng ganun katama, nag-work pa rin sila ng nag-work sa abot ng mga kaya nila to provide for the country, which is nakakalungkot lang marinig. So another example that I have is our OFW. So I will give us an example here what Colleen Garcia's answered when she was asked the Miss Universe question in Showtime way back 2015 to 2016. The question was, what's your country's biggest contribution to the world? And super naaalala ko pa talaga yung answer niya kasi nakaka-proud bilang Filipino marinig yung sagot niya. This is what she exactly said. Quote, I believe that my country's biggest contribution to the world would be its people. Hardworking laborers and employers all around the world, people who can bring a smile to everybody's faces, warm hearts, and at the same time, very unique and talented artists. Everywhere, all around the world, one single Filipino can make a great difference in every country's also in universe. And she's not wrong, right? Filipinos are known as a hardworking people. all around the world. Actually, there are countries where they really wanted a Filipino worker because they knew they're passionate and hardworking. They really put all of them on what they're doing. And as a Filipino, to be known as a hardworking and passionate, that is something to be proud of, right? All right. So for the last Filipino value that I will be discussing today, it is hospitality. So hospitality. Foreigners who come to visit the Philippines speak of Filipinos going out of their way to help them when lost, or the heartwarming generosity of a Filipino family hosting a visitor in their poverty-stricken home. Meanwhile, most foreigners who attended Filipino gatherings abroad testify to the warmth and friendliness of Filipinos as they experience that feeling of belongingness. Indeed, the legendary Filipino hospitality is not limited to the Philippines. It is everywhere, wherever there are Filipinos. So, ang Pilipino, kahit wala yung pera, once may dumating na kakilala, bisita, kaibigan, hahanap yan ng way para makapaghanda or makapagbigay ng merienda. Kasi culture talaga natin yun, di ba? Kultura talaga natin na kapag may bisita ay maghahanda. Magbubili ka ng biscuit doon ng soft drinks and such. Ganun talaga yung mga Filipino kahit wala silang pera talaga. And nakaka-amaze. And kapag naman mayroong mga kamag-anak na galing ibang bansa, tapos minsan may kasama pang foreigner na kaibigan or boyfriend, halos yung mga magulang natin magpahanda na or magpakain na sa buong barangay. Grabe silang maghanda. Like, nakaka-amaze kasi grabe nila ibahagi pati yung kultura natin sa mga foreigners. So, likas sa mga Pilipino ang mapagbigay, mapag-welcome sa kahit sino, and friendly. Marami rin akong nababasa sa social media and napapanood ng mga posts ng foreigners na masaya sila sa Pilipinas. Napakababait ng tao, matulungin daw, and laging nakatawa and nagjo-joke. And nakakatuwang basahin yun kasi it only shows that some of us ay hindi talaga namimili ng taong pakikisamahan. Natural sa atin na pakikipagkapwa-tao. So kahit na lumipat tayo or mag-migrate sa ibang bansa, nadadala natin yung culture na yun bilang Filipino. Actually, may mga kilala ko na Filipino sila, pero sa ibang bansa sila tumira. Pero alam pa rin nila yung kulturang Pinoy kasi pinapakilala sila ng parents nila. Like, tuwan-tuwa sila sa mga Filipino parents nila kasi kakaiba daw talaga. Especially sa mga gawaing bahay. So, ayun lang naman yung aking discussion ngayong araw. That would be all for my discussion about Filipino values or the strengths of the Filipinos. I hope you learned something new today and I hope that you enjoyed listening. You enjoyed the discussion and I hope you didn't get bored or sleepy. Baka may natutulog na dyan na iba. Joke lang. So, thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you so much for the meaningful lecture that you have given us, Teacher Rosel Apuli. I was moved by how Filipinos treat their family and how it is a strength of a Filipino character. And, you know, how it is also a source of our strength as individuals. Kasi para kanino ba tayo bumabangon, di ba? Sa pamilya din natin. So, family as a responsibility is part of being a family-oriented in Filipinos. So, mahirap kasing talikuran ng pamilya. And some other character strengths, grabe. Thank you so much. We are grateful for giving us the opportunity to reflect on the strengths of a Filipino character. Teacher Aces?
Yes, Teacher Jules. Can I just say something? And before I share my thoughts about Teacher Rosel's presentation, can I just say that I was really moved by her discussion. Like earlier, I got teary-eyed when she's discussing about family, And so going back, upon listening to her discussion, I learned I learned three traits that I consider to be the best Filipino traits that we have. The first is Filipinos being hardworking. Nasabi niya kanina na tayong mga Pilipino ang kinikilala sa mundo bilang isa sa mga pinaka masisipag na mga tao. And while I see it as a positive thing, hindi ko rin iaalis sa akin na pagtignan to bilang isang bagay na masyadong naro-romanticize to the point na hindi na napag-uusapan kung ano ba ang nagiging mali, kung bakit ba nagiging ganito ang mga kung bakit kinakailangan magsipag ng husto ng mga Pilipino. Katulad na nga lang ng ginamit na example ni Teacher Rosel kanina, ang mga magsasaka. Kahit gaano sila kumayod sa araw-araw nilang pamumuhay, bakit hindi sila umaangat? Dahil hindi naaayos ang sistema ng bansa natin, dahil hindi naaayos ang sistema ng pamumuhay nila. At para maayos ito, hindi tayo dapat manahimik, dapat tayong may gawin. 'Di ba? Yun yung isa sa mga tumatak sa isip ko kanina habang nagdi-discuss si Teacher Rosel. And second is yung Filipinos being joyful. And nasabi niya nga na minsan sa sobrang patatawa at palabiro, tinatawanan na lang natin ang mga problema natin. And I agree to that dahil sometimes, even ako kapag may problema ako, itinatawa ko na lang dahil mas masarap nga namang itawa na lang ang problema. Wala tayong iisipin. Pero gusto kong ipaalala sa mga viewers natin ngayong araw rather, na kung minsan, hindi rin naman masamang umiyak. Sometimes crying is a depiction of strength. Nagpapakita rin ng katatagan or ng kalakasan ang pag-iyak. Kaya huwag tayong matakot ipakita kung ano ang tunay na nararamdaman natin. And third, tumatak talaga sa isip ko yung sinabi niya na one Filipino in every country in the world can make a difference. 'Di ba? Dahil tayong mga Pilipino, meron tayong vibes talagang nakakahawa sa mga taong nakapaligid sa atin na kung sa isang room, kung lalagay tayo, hindi pwedeng hindi natin sila mai-impluwensyahan sa character natin. And yun yung tatlong traits ng mga Filipino na ikino-consider kong the best. And props to Teacher Rosel for giving us such a discussion. So, clap for me.
Thank you.
Ay,
Yes.
shucks, nakamute ako.
We can hear you, Teacher Aces.
Really?
Okay. So let's all welcome our second speaker, which will tackle naman the weaknesses of the Filipino character. So Teacher Angelica May de la Cruz, she graduated from Peñaranda National High School, Strand, with high honors in junior and in her senior high school days. Currently, she is also a second-year student at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, taking Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education, major in English. Hello, Teacher Angelica. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. It is an honor to be part of this webinar because this university produces intelligent students who are dedicated to their studies, right? I'm confident that everyone will pay attention to the things and ideas I'll present, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my knowledge with you guys. So atin ngang narinig ang napakaganda at napakamalaman na mga ideas na ibinigay ng ating unang presenter na si Ma'am Rosel. At syempre, dahil ang kanyang binigay na mga idea ay itinuturing natin ng mga strengths at ito yung mga bagay na siyang mapagmamalaki natin bilang mga Pilipino. On the other hand, I'll be talking about the Filipino character's weaknesses na talaga namang napapansin at naobserbahan ng karamihan at siyang nakakasanayan na nga ng iba sa atin. So, I'll address the issues that will arise as a result of this topic, and while some of you may already be aware or familiar of the weaknesses that I will be discussing, this is still extremely important. This can be treated as a social issues or problems that schools should help address. So later on, I will be also discussing about how school address this issue. So there are many of them, but teachers must focus on the weaknesses of the Filipino character to try to minimize it, so to eliminate them. So the weaknesses of the Filipino character is very important na mabalikan at mas lalo tayong maging pamilyar sapagkat sa mga ganitong bagay, Dahil bilang Pilipino maaari at malaki ang ating magagawa para mabago ito at maging isang positibong karakter na ating dadalhin. So to proceed, I just want to introduce to you this scholar. So next slide please. So the models of Filipino values. At dito magsisimula ang ating talakayan. And F. Landahocano identified two models of the Filipino value system, which is the exogenous or foreign model and the indigenous or traditional model. And the foreign model is described to be a legal and formal model, and the indigenous model is described as traditional and non-formal model or guide, but it is deeply embedded in the subconscious of the Filipinos. So the foreign model was inherited by Filipinos from Western cultures, particularly from the Spaniards and the Americans, wherein as we know that these persons are the ones who implement the colonialism in our country. An example of a foreign or exogenous influence is bureaucracy exhibited in the government of the Philippines. Next slide, please. So the report, A Moral Recovery Program, Building a People, Building a Nation, submitted on April 27, 1988 by the Task Force to President Corazon Aquino, the Senate, and the members of the press by then Senator Leticia Shahani. The moving spirit behind the program noted the weaknesses of the Filipino character na i-elaborate nga natin ngayong araw. Next slide. First, weaknesses of the Filipino character that I will be discussing is the extreme family-centeredness. So, excessive concern for family means using one's office and power to promote family interest, and thus functionalism, patronage, political dynasties, and protection of erring family members. So, it results in lack of concern for the common good and act as a block to national consciousness. So dahil sa sobrang pagkasentro ng family, nakakaligtaan na yung mga bagay na mas makatutulong at mas makapag-aambag din naman sa paligid natin at sa ibang tao, hindi lamang sa iisang pamilya. Second one is the extreme personalism o yung sobrang pammersonal. So it take things personally nga and cannot separate objective tasks from emotional involvement, and because of this, the Filipino is uncomfortable with bureaucracy, with rules and regulation, and with standard procedures. So hindi na nga nasusunod yung mga patakaran na dapat nasundin ng isang tao. So dito yung isang tao ay ginagamit yung personal contacts kung saan nagbibigay ng preference to their family and friends in hiring, services, and even voting. So dito na nga nangyayari yung palakasan system to have things done in a short period of time because one knows a powerful person. So halimbawa na nga dito ay yung pagtanggap sa trabaho. So di ba dapat sa pagtanggap ng trabaho, dapat may sinusunod na proseso o patakaran para matanggap yung isang tao. And hindi na nga ito nagagawa dahil nga sa extreme personalism at ito ay naglilid din sa graph corruption that evident in our Philippine society. Next slide. Thank you. So, third is the lack of discipline. Diba, kapag naririnig natin to, sasabihin natin, ang dali naman yan intindihin o ipaliwanag. Pero, ang ideya na ito ay dapat talaga na tinatalakay dahil isa ito sa malaking kahinaan ng Pilipino na pagkawalan ng disiplina. At ito yung casual attitude toward time and space, manifested in lack of precision and compulsiveness, in poor time management, or the procrastination, and aversion to following procedures strictly results in lack of standardization and quality control. So impatience results in shortcuts, palusot, ningas kugon. At dahil sa lack of discipline na ito, it often results to inefficient work system, the violation of rules, and a casual work ethic lacking follow-through. The fourth one is the passivity and lack of initiative. So this is waiting to be told what to do. Reliance on others like leaders and government, complacence, lack of a sense of urgency. So there is high tolerance of inefficiency, poor service, and even violations of one's basic right. Too patient and matiisin nga sa Tagalog. Too easily resigned to his fate, and the Filipino is easily oppressed and exploited. So dito sa passivity and lack of initiative, ayun yung naobserba na Filipino character na isa sa weakness nila natin. Next slide, please. So fifth one is the colonial mentality. Gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, yung nakuha natin sa Western, which is the Spaniard and the American. So lack of patriotism or of an active awareness, appreciation, and love of the Philippines, and an actual preference for things foreign. So ang halimbawa nito ay yung pagsusuot ng or nakakaugalian na talagang parang sa atin parang yun na yung party na talaga siya ng kultura natin is yung pagsusuot ng short ng mga kababaihan na namana at na kopya lang naman talaga ito sa mga foreign, which is the Americans. Ganon yung nangyayari sa colonial mentality natin. The sixth one is the kanya-kanya syndrome or the talangka mentality. So, narinig nyo naman na siguro ito at ito ay pero i-discuss ko pa rin ngayon. And it is done by chismis, intriga, unconstructive criticism, and it is evident in the personal ambition that is completely insensitive to the common good. So example is the lack of a sense of service among people in the government bureaucracy, and this results in the dampening of cooperative and community spirit and in trampling upon others' rights. Next slide, please. So next is the lack of self-analysis and self-reflection. So dito, the tendency to be superficial and somewhat flighty in the race of serious personal and social problems. There is a lack of analysis or reflection. Instead, there is satisfaction with superficial explanations and solutions. And the last one is the emphasis on forma rather than substance. So this is the lack of analysis and emphasis on form is reinforced by an educational system that is more form than substance. So these weaknesses are rooted in many factors. And next slide, please. So ito yon, like home, social and economic environment, culture and language, history, religion, educational system, mass media, leadership, and role models. So, sa mga ito, naapektuhan yung weaknesses na iyon. And change is possible, but however, there are goals that are proposed to be developed in the Filipino, like the sense of patriotism and national pride, a sense of the common good, a sense of integrity and accountability. The values and habits of discipline and hard work, the value and habits of self-reflection and analysis, the internalization of spiritual values, and the emphasis on essence rather than on form. Next slide, please. So values education in schools. The Department of Education has its vision to help develop, which is the Filipinos who passionately love their country and whose values and competencies enable them to realize their full potential and contribute meaningfully to building the nation. So it has as its core values, which is the makadiyos, makatao, makakalikasan, and the makabansa. So this can be an uphill battle for the Philippine schools to realize this, considering the extreme family-centeredness, extreme personalism, lack of discipline, passivity and lack of initiative, colonial mentality, kanya-kanya syndrome, lack of self-analysis and self-reflection, and emphasis on forma rather than on substance. And ito nga yung weaknesses ng Filipino character. So that it will not be more form than substance, as described in Senator Shahani's report, Philippine schools have to intensify values education in the curriculum. In fact, in response to this report, values education now, edukasyon sa pagpapakatao, in in K-12 curriculum was introduced as a separate subject in the basic education curriculum under the Values Education Framework program of Dr. Lourdes Wisumbing, then Department of Education, Culture and Sports Secretary in 1988 to 1990. So this Values Education Framework was conceptualized in 1987. In 2002, the basic education curriculum, which is the grades 1 to 6 and first year to fourth year high school, integrated values in the major learning areas or subjects. And beginning with this K-12 curriculum in 2013, values education was renamed Edukasyon sa Pagpapakatao or yung ESP for grades 1 to 10. And in the senior high school curriculum, grades 11 to 12, wala man ditong values education or yung ESP. Meron naman ditong tinatawag na core courses such as Introduction to the Philosophy of the Human Person and Personal Development. And in essence, values education subjects themselves. So all in all, this Filipino character is so much good in the Filipino, but so much needs to be changed. So many of our strengths as a people are also the sources of our weaknesses. Shahani's report, yung minention ko nga kanina, that he explains that family orientation becomes in-group orientation that prevent us from reaching out beyond the family to the larger community and the nation. So in our personalism, we are warm and caring, but this leads us to lack of objectivity. We are concerned with people we know, but unfair to people we don't know. In our flexibility, we compromise precision and discipline. We are a joyful people with a sense of humor, but we can take things with humor all the time, for serious problems need serious analysis. Our faith in God is our source of strength, but this makes us dependent on forces outside us. Do nothing that makes us submissive to God's will. We are good at pakikipagkapwa-tao, and so we can easily empathize, but we can at the same time be envious of others. We can be hardworking and yet can be lazy and passive in the workplace. Sa mga ito, malaking bagay ang values education sapagkat ito ay nakakatulong upang maisaayos at gawing positibo ang mga kahinaang karakter ng isang Pilipino. So dito natatapos ang ating talakayan. Thank you for listening, guys, at sana kayo ay natuto sa maikling paglalahad na ito.
Wow, thank you so much, Teacher Angelica, for that very insightful discussion. And can I just say that I love how you pointed out the lack of discipline of Filipinos when it comes to time. Because, masyado tayong mga Filipino, kinagis na natin yung concept ng Filipino time to the point na dinidisrespect na natin. I mean, unconsciously, dinidisrespect na natin yung mga taong tumutupad dun sa oras ng usapan natin, di ba? Masyado kasi tayo yung pinanindigan natin na wala Filipino time, nakasanayan na natin yung ganun. Well, in fact, that is so rude for people na nag-exert ng effort to arrive on time dun sa place na pinag-usapan nyo at dun sa time na pinag-usapan nyo. Mami Jules, do you have something to say?
Yes, Teacher Aces, no? So with the discussion of Teacher Angelica, support ng with extreme family centeredness and extreme personalism, I can relate them both to political dynasty, which is a very timely issue here in the Philippines, no? Right now, especially elections. So with all of the weaknesses naman, there is a lot of room for improvement of the Filipinos. So why are we studying these weaknesses, di ba? It is to get to the root of it and so that we can work it out in order to strive as a better person. So truly, like our teacher Angelica said, change is possible. And these weaknesses can be given a guide for overcoming them. Gawin nating positibo ang mga negatibong karakter ng Pilipino. So thank you so much for the worthwhile discussion, Teacher Angelica. Now, are you guys ready? We are now moving forward with our question and answer portion. And just as promised, we do have it, the question and answer portion. This is to get in touch with our speakers. So we have chosen a question for teacher Rosel first, coming from a comment in our FB Live. I'll just read it. Yes, I am. For you, what is the most important strength that Filipinos have?
Right. Thank you for that, Teacher Julia. So for me, the most important strength that Filipinos have based on what I've discussed is the family orientation. Why? Bakit no? Kasi I really believe that everything starts at home. Everything starts in our family because they are the people that are there from the very start. Sila talaga yung nakakasalamuhan natin. And naniniwala ako na lahat ng 7 values na diniscuss ko ay masasabuhay ng bawat Pilipino kung nag-start talaga siya sa family. But I'm not saying na if may isang tao na masama, ay nag-start yun sa pamilya niya. Meron lang talagang ibang tao na medyo naliligaw din ng landas based sa mga pinagdadaanan nila. What I wanted to say is that family orientation is really important because if you are a family-oriented person, madadala at madadala mo yun kahit saan ka magpunta and pwede mo pang mabahagi sa ibang tao na nakakasalamuha mo. Thank you.
Wow. I couldn't agree more to Teacher Rosel because as someone who values my family as a treasure, nakaka-relate ako sa pinanggagalingan ni Teacher Rosel. And we also have a question for Teacher Angelica here, coming from a comment in our YouTube live. And it says that, what roles does values education play in addressing Filipino character flaws? Teacher Angelica?
Wow, ang ganda naman ng katanungan na ito dahil na-explain ko ulit kung ano nga ba yung naitutulong ng values education sa atin at lalo na sa mga estudyante na nasa K-12 curriculum. So values education helps the students to become more and more responsible and sensible. It helps them to understand the perspective of life in a better way and lead a successful life as a responsible Filipino or a responsible citizen. So it also helps them or the students to develop a strong relationship with their family and their friends. So the lessons given by this subject are fundamental to living in harmony and social progress, such as respect, empathy, equality, solidarity, and also the critical thinking. Without this and other ethical principles that define us as human beings, it will be difficult for us to build a better country or a better world. And that will be all. Thank you.
Very well said, Teacher Angelica. Any thoughts, Teacher Julia?
Wonderful answer, Teacher Angelica. No? So we must give importance to our values education.
Truly indeed. Yeah. And now for this part of the program, I am now calling the technical team headed by Teacher Mary Rose Velasquez and Teacher Clavel Arisa Lavin from our technical team to present the certificate of recognition for our speakers.
Republic of the Philippines, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, College of Education, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. This certificate of recognition is hereby given to Teacher Rosel and Apuli and Teacher Angelica May de la Cruz for imparting their valuable knowledge and remarkable expertise as a speaker handling the topic, the strengths and weaknesses of the Filipino character, a socio-cultural issue in the webinar of the teacher and the community, school culture, and organizational leadership. Given this 6th day of May 2022 via Zoom, signed by Dr. Rosalie A. Corpus, course professor, and Ms. Eden Tuan, and President Teacher Emerlyn B. Sulima.
Next slide po. Republic of the Philippines, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, College of Education, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. This certificate of participation is hereby given to attendee here for actively participating in the webinar, The Strength and Weaknesses of Filipino Character, a Socio-Cultural Issue in the Webinar of the Teacher and the Community, School, Culture, and Organizational Leadership, given this 6th day of May 2022 via Zoom. Signed by Dr. Rosalie A. Corpus, Course Professor, and Ms. Emerlyn Solima, BSED and 21N Class President. Republic of the Philippines, Polytechnic University of the Philippines, College of Education, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Certificate of Appreciation. This certificate is given to Dr. Rosalie A. Corpus for allowing BSEDN 21N to conduct this webinar for the subject, the teacher and the community, school, culture, and organizational leadership, given the 6th day of May 2022 via Zoom. Signed by Ms. Roselle N. Apuli, Group 4 Leader, and Ms. Emerlyn Sulima, BSEDN 21N Class President.
All right. Thank you again to our dearest speakers for gracing us today with our seminar. Tunay ngang napakaraming kaalaman ang inyong naibahagi sa amin sa araw na ito. At nais ko lamang pong paalalahanan ang lahat na tulad ng sinabi namin kanina, magkakaroon ng assessment after this seminar na inyong sasagutan through G-Forms. And we will be sending the link right after we end this Zoom meeting, or you can now access it through the chat box. All right, Miss Teacher Jules.
Yes, so thank you so much once again for all the participants who made this webinar interactive and fruitful. We'd like to give much appreciation once again to Dr. Corpus, once again for letting us experience in, conducting a webinar. And so, ayun, Teacher Aces, let's call out our fellow participants here.
And to our fellow teachers, speakers, Teacher Roselle Apuli, Teacher Angelica de la Cruz, and the technical team, Teacher Mary Rose Palaes, and Teacher Clavel Lapid. Thank you so much for all the effort. You are all appreciated.
Yes, thank you so much. And we would like to end our webinar with our beloved PUP hymn. And once again, this is Julia.
And this is Aces and Daya na nagpapaalala sa gobyernong tapat, angat buhay lahat. And we are your Masters of Ceremony.
So let us now witness and sing our PUP hymn.
Congratulations, everyone.